Hey everyone, I'm Jonah,
No, I'm Connor.
and welcome back to Rank and File Sports. The North Carolina Tar Heels went 6-7 last season, but made one of the biggest coaching hires of this offseason, bringing in Bill Belichick. And a lot of people are really high on this North Carolina team. They're going to be really tough to predict next year just because of how much is changing. Let's go ahead and take a look at that schedule. Starting off with TCU is going to be a really interesting game. After that, a couple tricky ones in there with Clemson, a road trip to Cal, and then just a lot of games in that, 60-75% range. But the schedule overall is not too difficult, so only about a 3 out of 10 on our difficulty meter.
Starting off the season against TCU, I believe this is a Monday game. Should be a pretty interesting one. Obviously, like Jonah was saying, Bill Belichick is at North Carolina now. That's the big story. And seeing if his NFL success translates to college football. He's bringing in a pretty decent recruiting class, and obviously, as the years go on, it should get better and better. This is a little hard to predict right now just because TCU does have their starting quarterback returning after a very successful season, but a lot of that wide receiver room is gone to the NFL draft. So we're just going to keep an eye on both these teams over the spring and summer seasons just to see where they end up. So right now, about a 50% chance for both teams. After that, they'll go on the road for a non-conference game against Charlotte. Shouldn't be too difficult here. Don't know much about Charlotte. Don't think I need to know anything about Charlotte. UNC will get the job done here, 100% chance. Then hosting Richmond, same thing. Don't know much about Richmond football and know that they're a decent basketball team sometimes in the tournament. But once again, not much needs to be said. Our Heels with a 100% chance to get a win there. Then they host UCF. UCF has had a couple mediocre seasons the last couple years. I think North Carolina, with the talent they have coming in, should be at a higher level, even though it is still early in the season. They should have some of the kinks worked out and should be a competitive team at this point. But since it is at UCF, gonna give them a little bit of an advantage there for the home field, giving North Carolina a 60% chance to get a win there going into their first bye week.
Yeah, after that, you got a tricky matchup with Clemson at home. We're really high on this Clemson team. I think they're going to be really solid. Cade Klubnik is a really great quarterback. He's going to be one of the favorites for the Heisman Trophy this year. So even though it's at home, really tough to see North Carolina winning this game. Then you're going on the road to face Cal. We're really high on this Cal team as well. They are bringing in Devin Brown from Ohio State and also are keeping Jaden Ott, who is a really solid running back. He was, I think, projected to get drafted this year, had a little bit of a down year, decided to come back one more time. And I think overall, Cal is going to be a very solid team. So, tricky matchup on the road there. We're actually going to favor the Golden Bears. Virginia at home. Some people are really high on this Virginia team. Some people are really low. This is going to be another tough game to predict, but the home field advantage is going to give the Tar Heels a little bit of a benefit. So I do think that they'll be able to get a home win, but it might be a little bit closer than some people are expecting. On October 31st, they're heading on the road to face Syracuse. And even though Syracuse lost Kyle McCord, they're going to take a pretty big step down. So we think that North Carolina should be favored on the road here, and they maybe have a potential upset chance here. But with the next two games not being that difficult, it's not really a trap game. So we like North Carolina on the road. Then you got Stanford at home, the Cardinal traveling a long ways for this matchup, and North Carolina should be the better team. So again, we like the Tar Heels to be favored here at about a 75% chance. And then finally, Wake Forest been struggling a lot the past few seasons. It's going to be tough to see them making an improvement here this year. They have the home field advantage in this one, but I really do think that North Carolina is the better team. They should be able to get the job done on the road, about a 75% chance.
Following that road trip to Wake Forest, they will come back home to face the Duke Blue Devils coming right down the road. Big rivalry game. Should be a much more competitive game than the basketball ones this season, just because Cooper Flag is an absolute monster. But sticking to football, North Carolina and Duke are both kind of in similar situations. I think they're a couple years out from being really competitive teams with like the top teams in the ACC. But I do think this will be an interesting matchup for these two teams. I'm gonna lean to the Tar Heels just because I think Bill Belichick, especially at this point in the season, is gonna have a nice system figured out, even though it is his first year. And with it being at home, I do think that will also help North Carolina. So giving them a 60% chance in this game. And then finally, they'll have the in-state rivalry game against North Carolina State at North Carolina State. They were one of the most disappointing teams last year. A lot of people thought they were going to be maybe a dark horse out of the ACC or at least a very competitive team, and that was not the case. They had a pretty awful season overall, and I don't think much is going to change because of that. Because it is a home game for the Wolfpack, I do think that they'll have a slight advantage in that sense. But once again, I do think North Carolina, with how much they have returning and also who they have coming in, will have enough talent to kind of nullify that home field advantage for North Carolina State. So giving the Tar Heels a 60% chance to end the season with a win.
Yeah, this is really tough to predict for North Carolina this season. There's obviously the three biggest games, in my opinion. You got TCU, Clemson, and the road trip to California. Other than that, I mean, they're favored everywhere else. So, 9-3 is a possibility, but I could see them, tripping up in one of these 60 to 75% games, maybe two. So I'd say somewhere between 7-5 and 9-3 is most likely where we're going to see North Carolina.
Yeah, I think this is similar to the situation Michigan's going with. A lot of North Carolina's season is riding on one person, and the difference between them and Michigan is that North Carolina is riding on Bill Belichick being the same head coach he was when he had Tom Brady at his quarterback position at New England. I don't think it's going to be exactly that successful. I'm not saying North Carolina is going to win six national championships in the next 10 years, but I do think that they'll be able to get into a rhythm. And I think this is a favorable schedule for North Carolina to do some damage in Bill Belichick's first year. Obviously, you do have a couple of those tough games like hosting Clemson and going on the road against Cal. But I do think those will be good tests just to see how this North Carolina team can do both this season and in the coming seasons. So I think they'll have a pretty decent season, probably going to a bowl game. I think 7 to 9 wins, somewhere in that range, is a good prediction for where this team will end up.
Yeah, it's 9 wins is definitely the optimistic end of that, I think, because it's just really hard to not like to see this team not slipping up somewhere with how
Hmm.
many of these close games they're projected to have. Last season, the Tar Heels did go 6-7, and based on our percentages, we're projecting them for 7.75 wins. But our way too early prediction, we're going to go ahead and go with the lower end of that at 7-5. I think there's going to be a couple slip ups for this North Carolina team, as well as losing the games that they're projected to lose. So we are going to go just under our projected win total with a prediction of 7-5. The Vegas over under is slightly favoring the over 7.5, but it's basically 50-50 there. So pretty much right on with that as well. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe. and we'll see you in our next video.